Hello, Cancer Warriors. My name is Tonya, and this is Power Pantaloons podcast. Today we have special guest TrevisMichelle, and she is a Cancer Warrior. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. How are you doing? I'm just so excited to be here. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
I'm excited to have you here and learn about your story. So, what kind of cancer did you have?
Cervical cancer, stage 3B, 3C.
Okay, fantastic. Where do you want to start in your story? Some people like to start at different spots.
All right. Uh, well, I'll start at the beginning. As we all know, we were going through COVID. As my silent investor, I'm a registered nurse, and I was riding my bike 3 to 4 times a week to work, whether it was 28 degrees in New York or 90, and 14 miles each, 7 miles each way. And then on the weekends, I was part of a cycling group, or I'd cycle by myself. So it was almost 100 miles a week, 75 to
Wow.
100 miles per week I was riding because I didn't want to ride the subway trains and be around people who didn't have masks on or what have you. So I said, I will ride a bike. Well, guess what? That's not something I grew up doing. And I was afraid to ride bikes. But I think the fear of getting COVID kind of overrode that. So I ended up finding out that I liked it. Well, I noticed that I was having some spotting and I thought, oh my goodness, you got to stand up when you hit these potholes in New York, right? Because I had some bleeding. And I just, kind of blew it off. But then the pain started becoming worse. And fortunately, I have a good support system. My girlfriend, who's a doctor, was like, yeah, you're going to go and get checked out. I was like, no, I had kidney stones during this time. And they saw that I had some fibroids. And I'm like, look, I had 3 children. I still had a flat belly. I'm not going to let it get big because these fibroids, we're getting those bad boys taken out. Yeah, it's called vanity. And she's like, no, before you do that, you're going to go to the doctor and get checked. And so in so doing, and she came with me and held my hand, actually, we found that I did have a huge tumor that you could see on a vaginal exam.
Wow.
So they said, you know what, you can come back, you can actually do a biopsy, then you can, we'll put you into the OR and all of that. And I'm like, and I'm going to have to wait for an appointment until next week over the weekend. I'm going to go nuts. So I was like, just please try to numb me as much as possible. And everybody's like, well, hold your hand. And my team at New York Presbyterian Columbia, I have to say, Dr. Gockley was awesome. So it's one of the most painful procedures I've ever had because they did the biopsy in the office, but at least I knew. And a week later, I received the news that I did have cervical cancer, and I had the MRI, and it had some involvement of my lymph nodes in my groin area. So, they said, you know what, it's curable. Now, everyone else heard death. You hear cancer, the first thing you do, oh, I'm so sorry, right? It's not like,
Yeah.
hey, we're here to support you, whatever you need. No, it's automatic death. So I heard curable. So I told him, I said, well, whatever it takes, whatever we have to do, let's go. I didn't stop to think about why me, none of that. I put on it's time to survive because I've been through so many traumas in my life. I'm like, okay, this is just one more. We got this,
Yeah.
right? And I have a relationship with God, not about what church you go to and all that. I have a relationship with God. And I said, God, you're saying it's curable. So then I need to fight. I have to be a willing participant. It starts here, right?
A
So
thousand percent.
yeah, so that's pretty much how my journey started. And I was diagnosed November 5th, and December 1st, I started radiation for 5 weeks, and I had chemo on Fridays once a week for 4 of the 5 because my body broke down and said no. And they said, that's okay. We feel you've had enough. And I still had to do the radiation. So that was my process. I just kept going, right?
Yeah.
And I always have to mention my children. They're adults, Sasha, Akil, and Khalik. And they were all like, Ma, you got this. This is just more for you to speak on your platforms and to
Yeah.
share and to put in your book. Meanwhile, I'm looking at them like, did I really give birth to y'all? Because you don't know. You raise your children, but you're not responsible after they're adults. We're not. So to have them on my team, and they're still there is huge for me. So that's
Of
pretty much
course.
how it started. So going from a registered nurse to a patient is
That's got to be crazy pants.
it
What
is.
what what year were you diagnosed in?
2021, November
So it's
2020.
real new still for you.
Yes, and but see, it's new. Everyone keeps telling me that. Other cervical, other cancer conquerors also say that it's new. But in my head, I'm like, I should be past this. Like that's old, because you get a
Oh,
cold, and but I'm realizing, and the doctor like, you're still seeing us every 3 months. You're still in surveillance. You're still new, and I'm like, oh, right, okay.
right, because you have the mindset that you're done, so you're done, right? And I totally get that. So I I agree with you that mindset is the first thing that you have to get correct. I do think that a relationship with God, the universe, deity, I think that is also super important. Uh, the reason that this podcast is called Power Pantaloons is while I was going through my journey, every day when I got up, I changed my underwear and I visualized that I was putting on Wonder Woman's underwear because Wonder Woman doesn't die. And so, like, I get you on that mindset piece. I really do. So a lot of people don't know that a healthy uterus is only like 4 ounces. When they took mine out, it was over 10 pounds. Yeah, there were no markers in my blood. And that's a surprising thing because usually there are some markers in your blood when you have that much cancer in your body. But blood tests are not the end all be all of everything. And listening to your body and doing what you need to be doing is important. And your friend just amazing, amazing. Just know you're just gonna do this. Like sometimes we need that because we're headstrong and we think we're invincible until we're not. So yeah. What was it like when they said that you have cancer? Like, what was your reaction to that?
It was kind of like, okay, knowing having the medical, nursing background rather, I realized it would be cancer when I saw the her face, my doctor's face, and when they couldn't complete the exam. So I kind of knew already, and I was like, what are we doing? Let's go. That was really it. And people have always asked me, you didn't say woe is me or anything. I didn't, I didn't. And I've thought about it, right? And I just didn't. I was just ready to get it going. I
Well,
wanted to start my journey, period. That's
yeah,
really all
don't
I was thinking about.
don't have time to sit in the corner and cry. There's no time for that. You need to get you need to mobilize the troops. You need to get your head straight. You need to get your nutrition straight. You need to create your battle plan because it's a battle. Whether you have stage 1 or you have stage 4. Um, you
But you know what?
know,
Interesting you say that, like we don't have time. But I really feel, because I am also a certified mental health coach and advocate, we really do have time to feel. Uh, I find that speaking to a lot of cancer conquerors, they don't want to. And if you don't feel, at some point you will. Yes, I moved forward, but I took 3 whole days. Didn't wash, didn't get out. I only walked my dog. That was it. And I laid in bed and I cried, I snotted, and I cursed for 3 full days. Not woe is me, just I don't want to be a burden to my family or to anyone else. I'm single. How am I going to handle the house and it's snowing? And then I have a dog. And all of these feelings and emotions, and look what I've been through and I've accomplished, and I have so much more to accomplish. So I allowed myself to feel. I leaned in hard for those 3 days. That freed me up to go through my journey. Had I held on to that, it would have made it hard, and you like start like that stutter step. So I always tell people your feelings are real and we shouldn't ignore
absolutely.
them. So I leaned in hard. And then when I felt the need to fall apart, I did. But I just knew going to radiation, you think, oh my goodness, I know what radiation is, right? And you're just gonna lay there for like 15, 20 minutes, get your treatment, get up and go. And my team was like, yeah, but after about a week and a half, your energy's gonna be gone. I got this. That's what I was saying. Sure. But I was feeling good. So I'm like, I am told my daughter and my one of my besties, Tiffany Teachy, who's also she's a hidden figure because she's a mechanical engineer. I was like, look, I need to write this journal. I don't want you guys to let me say that I have cancer. I need you to push me. Make sure that I publish this. Well, they did that. I wanted to punch them both in the throat. I really did. But during my third week of chemo and radiation, I published. In fact, it was that time frame that the doctors told me.
Wow.
So I needed to put it out there so that people could purchase it. So Tiffany's like, okay, write a text, let me read it, and then we'll send it out and ask people to purchase it so you can, get your badge, #1 on Amazon. I was fussing with her. She was like, you're going to do this. And I was fussing back. I sat there. I laid there. I literally did my text, sent it out to everybody I knew and said, hey, help me out. Help me become, #1 best-selling author. I really appreciate your support ahead of time. Like, I didn't do the schmoozy. I went
You
straight
didn't
for
have the energy for it.
and I did that. And she was like, oh my God, you were supposed to send that out. And I literally hit the publish button and I slept for 16 hours. But, I did it. And I did it the way I said I would before the end of December. And my team didn't let me down. So, it kept me going. It wasn't about trying to be really a second time into, best-selling author. It was about having something to think of outside of my treatment.
I'm over here you 17 years out and I still haven't written the book. I've started writing it and you're making me feel very embarrassed right now with
Absolutely
the
not.
speed that you get that done. I I need to get off my behind and put my book out there because all of the stories are important and sharing the tips and the how you feel, the mindset, because none of that is conveyed when
Mm-mm.
you're talking to your doctors. And once they release you back into the wild, there's no additional follow-up mental health support. No, hey, this is a trauma event. Maybe you should, go to some counseling. None of that, right? Like they don't even warn you that you're going to get hit by the trauma bus, right? Like no preparation at all. It's okay, so here's your cancer, here's your blood test, here's your radiation, here's your chemotherapy, here's your surgeries, here's your other blood test. Like dot 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 dot. And then they just push you back out into the wild. And I know that it's based on how the medical system is built, and it's not the doctors don't care. I know that, but our our system is so broken that it just works on healing the body
Mm-hmm.
and gives really no support for spirit or mind at all in that. And it's, in my estimation, very broken. I think you need to approach the entire healing process holistically, mind, body, and spirit.
You're absolutely correct. And being a registered nurse and being an advocate for my patients all of these years, and when I say advocate, going up against the doctors and, pushing back and saying they need help, they need this, that because it was my passion, my calling to be a registered nurse. So being on this side, I was really blessed because I hear these stories and I'm always going to give New York Presbyterian, first God, because he said I shall live and not die, but Columbia Presbyterian has such a wonderful system. My doctor, Dr. Gockler, she now has moved on to Massachusetts, but let me tell you something, not Massachusetts, Boston. She actually sat there. Every time she would talk to me, she sat on the stool, looked me dead in my eyes. and told me exactly what to expect. Every time I had to go for my chemo and radiation on that Friday, I saw her. She never, I mean, her and Dr. Chen, my radiation oncologist, they never left my side. And they actually told me, we want you to have a relationship again. You're going to have healthy sex. This is what you're going to need to do. They walked me through this. They
Oh my
actually
God.
made sure that, and you need to follow up with, you need a therapist. But one of my besties, Michelle Benjamin, who's a fearless warrior, she started out with stage 2 breast cancer. And during my journey, because she was telling me, I was like, my head is itching, it hurts, my hair. They said it's not going to fall out. And she says, well, your hair is shedding. So why don't you take control and just shave it? But see, I couldn't have that conversation with other people, but she had already gone through that. So I shaved it and it empowered me so much because I took control. And she was like, also, you need to find a therapist. And I was like, look, I did therapy. I know the trauma I had in my childhood. I have my tools in my tool chest. I'm good. She says, you need therapy. You never had cancer before. And I, again, wanted to punch her in the throat, like, get off my back. But I listened.
These are the friends everybody needs, though. The friends that will bite you in the ass and just hold you until you do the things that are necessary and uh productive for your growth and your well-being, right? Like you don't want the yes friends that just yes everything you say. You want friends that will challenge you because that's the only way you grow as a person.
Right. And during that process, like, for instance, when I had to ring my bell and my family, my daughter was just starting a new position as a supervisor. And she's like, Mom, I said, I don't want you to, it's okay. Your job, your family, don't worry about it. I could go and ring the bell by myself. And my friend who is a doctor, she had to see patients. So I said, I can do this. Michelle came to me, took an Uber, brought me flowers, made me do 2 TikToks, which I couldn't even go in for treatment because I had to rest. They were only 30 seconds each. It seemed like they were 5 minutes. And they gave me 20 minutes so that I could recuperate. And she was with me while I rang my bell for my radiation treatment. And I was like, okay, so, we get dressed, I get dressed, and I said, I'll drop you off at the doctor. And I was like, why are you going to the doctor? She goes, oh, I have to have my drains taken out. She came to be with me with 4 drains in her breast, in her chest, just to be there by my side. Like, who does that? And I'm like
A
crying,
warrior.
you know? So that's the kind of support I've had throughout this journey. People who
Amazing.
stepped up that I didn't expect to. And then those who I expected to step up didn't. And I'm okay with it because everybody deals with death, disease, health issues, trauma in their own way. That's their problem, not mine. But I see who you are. So don't try to come back now, y'all. I'm just saying,
I
stay where you is.
that you know that's a real point that you make right there. The ones that you expect to hold your hand through the entire thing, some of them ghost you, and you don't know what in their life caused the trauma so that they couldn't handle the fact that you have cancer. And I goodbye. Like I let them go with grace and love because I don't know what their story is in regards to that. But like you, please don't come back. I'm not having that. Like, but some people will allow people to come back. Like everybody is different when it comes to that, and I totally get that. It's just how people process, right? And humanity is at its finest when someone is in need. People came out of the woodwork. People I like that I barely knew, bringing me casseroles and stuff, and I was like, thank shining angels that you didn't know were angels until you were at a rough spot, and it's very interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it's true because my girlfriend would drive from Connecticut to Queens just to bring me some collard greens because you don't like most foods, you can't keep it down, the smell. But for some reason, I could eat collard greens. And she was like, you have to have your strength. And that's what my grandma always made for me throughout my 3 pregnancies. She made sure I had collard greens and drank the broth. So I guess in my head, it was like, no, this is what you have to eat.
That's the
And
nurturing thing.
exactly. But yeah, so, going through this process, even though my doctor explained everything to myself and to my family, I mean, she went above and beyond. And I say above and beyond based on what a lot of doctors and medical team do, right? A lot of them don't even do the bare minimum. So she did her job, and then she added, because she says, you know what, I will come out, let's have this Zoom meeting after hours. She says, but I'm going to tell you now, I curse when I talk, and this is not going to be that kind of, like I'm at work. She says, my hair is going to be down. And I was like, oh, great. So that she could explain to my daughter and to my friend who's a doctor, but this isn't her specialty. And she answered questions over and over again, different ways, showed us diagrams. I mean, so I had that extra support. The sad part is when I did go prior to this for a second opinion, right? Because you should always, I'm saying out there, you should always go for a second opinion. The treatment I received at that well-known hospital was horrible. It was horrible. I won't name them because they're not important, but I was treated like, oh, the doctor really chastised me because I said, I have my team. So one of my girlfriends, another bestie came with me. The other two, my daughter and my friend who's a doctor, were on the phone. And she was like, yeah, look, I don't like when people are on the phone. I can't control the narrative. So, and she did this for 5 minutes. And I'm sitting here like, huh? So you know what? That's when someone else may have been beaten down or intimidated. I looked at her. I said, my team is ready. They're used to this. I called them anyway. And then, which she didn't expect because she didn't know who TrevisMichelle was, I told my team exactly what she said. She was shocked. I said,
Oh,
yes, don't ask questions until the end. She doesn't like the fact that you're not here. She can't control the narrative, blah, 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 blah. And then I was praying that they didn't go off because my daughter will she no filter. And I was like, oh my goodness. They were like, okay, no problem. So after she ran through, saying, okay, it's the same diagnosis, which is what I knew, but I just wanted this, confirmation. She did this in 5 minutes. She went through my whole treatment plan in 5 minutes on the
no
phone. My daughter
way.
goes, she says, did she stop to breathe? And so I said, do you guys have any questions? My daughter goes, no, Ma. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I hear it. She's going to lose it. I got to get them off the phone. I asked my girlfriend, who's a doctor, and then I called her doctor. I don't know why I disappeared off of here, but
I don't know either.
why did I disappear off the screen? This is internet at its best, I guess. But
Yes.
anywho, there it is. So I said to the doctor, you know what? Do you have any questions? And I called her Dr. So-and-so. You should have seen the surgeon's face. She just like blanched.
Yeah. She's
Then she
not
wanted
used to
to have
being
a
challenged and
conversation.
called out.
No, but she didn't know I had a doctor as a friend on the phone.
Yeah.
So then after we got off the phone, I asked them and they were ready to get off the phone with her. And she wanted to spend more time going through the process. No, I see who you are now. Don't spend any more time with me. I was just polite. I was praying my girlfriend because she also I thought she was going to lose it, but she followed my cue. I smiled because I knew I had my team, but I'm thinking, I'm an RN also. And this is how you're talking to me. And I just, I understand when patients say how doctors, you don't have to be warm and fuzzy, but at least have some humanity with
Yes.
you and some empathy. So from that point, my team just been great.
I advocate strongly that you should get second opinions. I also advocate strongly that you have the right to fire any doctor you want to because they're not listening to you or they don't seem to care or they spend 5 minutes with you
Mhm.
going over something that is literally your life and extremely complex, and she don't have time for that. I do not have time to have you as a doctor. It is super important to advocate for yourself. It is, and if you cannot do it, bring yourself a woman who can, because I promise you, we are here, and we will support your decision to ask questions and
Right.
to challenge your doctor and find out exactly how the care is going to go down, because it's literally your life, and you have every right to have conversations and ask hard questions, because who's gonna if you're not going to?
And you know what? You're right. And I'm happy you said to have a female with you. However, I cannot leave men out, right? I'm an equal opportunist. My daughter was able, she has a family and stuff, and she was working nights. And so she did come to 3 of my treatments where I had chemo and radiation, because the chemo, I didn't know if I'm a lightweight, y'all. I don't drink or anything. So you give me those meds and I was out. So after they had to figure out the right formula, so she would bring me and then go way back out to Long Island and go to bed so she could get up and go to work the next day. But in addition to her, my 2 sons uh, came up. So Khalik, who is the middle son, stayed with me for 6 months. So he came up 3 months at a time, and he's my caregiver actually. And then my older son Akil brought his son with him, who was 4, no 3 actually, and drove up from North Carolina to give his brother a break and stayed a week. So our males, our men, they are there for us as well. So I
I,
just want to make sure that I
I
give husbands, boyfriends, brothers, any men, when you support us, we so appreciate you.
we do, and I didn't mean to exclude men, but most of the time you're not really going to have most men aren't really welcome in gynecologist office. Like, from my personal experience, other people could have definitely different experiences, and I didn't have any male presence in my life at the time I went through my journey, so I wasn't trying to exclude men. Absolutely
Oh, no,
not.
not at all. I just
The
wanted to shout
support network is your support network, and I, I have met some truly tremendous, phenomenal men who are very supportive when it comes to supporting their loved ones going through cancer. Yeah, love you too, darling. The children are in the other
out.
room. Middle child is a bright sunshine. Oh God, I love my kids. Are you gonna come over here and put your face in? You can put your face in. Hello.
Hi, how are you? Hi, beautiful.
You. Oh, but have fun. I just yes, wanted to say hello. That's
Hello.
that's my beautiful middle child. And so when I went through my journey, I was single, and they removed my uterus, and so I was like, okay, so no kids for me. And at that point, I hadn't wanted them because I wasn't prepared. A little bit after my 5 year cancerversary, I started dating this amazing man who had 3 kids, and now I have 3 kids, and I was able to adopt the youngest one because he was still at that age, and you never know what, like, when you're going through your cancer journey and all you see is cancer and you can't see beyond what could possibly be there. For many of us, there really is beautiful life after cancer. And I know it's so hard to see when you're dealing with chemotherapy that you have to have rescue drugs before, during, and after, or now you have lymphedema, or you have amputations because they removed your breast, or whatever, right? Like, and you're challenged because your body is going to be different. You
Yes.
have the right to take the time to grieve those differences, right? Like, when body parts are removed, you have a right to grieve them, especially when they're pieces that define either your femininity or masculinity, right? Like losing your cervix or your whole uterus or any part of your reproductive system is very challenging. And I didn't deal with any of that immediately, like during the actual cancer journey. I was too focused on doctor appointment, blood work, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, like, and it was just there's plenty of time because I slept 20-hour days. Like, I mean, there was plenty of time, but there also wasn't. It's really weird how time works
Mhm.
when you're going through your cancer journey. And then once I was released back into the wild, I was like, and then I spent the next 5 years redefining who I am as a woman without a
Mm.
uterus.
Wow. Yeah, it is, it's a lot. I was blessed that I was able to have three children.
Yeah.
So I didn't, for myself, this is just for Travis Michelle. I didn't define myself by my organs because at such a young age, I experienced such trauma. So I had to find who I was, identify myself at a very young age. And I've had such loss in my life that this was just a matter of, okay, is this what it takes for me to live? And I understand. And I had to mourn it because I have that lymphedema. For those of you who don't know what that means, not everyone who has cervical cancer goes through this, but because of the radiation, it was in my pelvic area. It kind of, someone described it as having a traffic jam. And so you have all the cars there, and then there's no blood flow to my lower extremity. So it backs up and then it causes swelling. So they said you may have it or it may happen in 20 years. Well, I got it a year after. So now that's what I'm kind of dealing with. And, having GI issues of some people have constipation, some people have diarrhea. I have the constipation. It's a life altering change. And, when I'm not in a relationship, and now I'm mentally ready to like at least find someone and I can be friends first because I have to trust you because I
Yes.
can't, my body, I can't do certain things yet. And they haven't released me. They pulled away a little bit. Instead of seeing them every week, of course, I'm every 90 days. That's still a lot because I'm under surveillance. I just had an MRI today. And normally the MRIs are good. I do prepare 24 hours mentally. So I'm home, right? I'm on disability because I stutter from chemo. They don't tell you that because most people don't stutter from chemo, or if they do, they don't really talk about it. And I'm like, what's going on? So I had to have the brain MRI, and they said no. Finally, they're telling me it's functional neurologic disorder. And I'm like, what? And they said, we're studying it now. I'm glad I was born now and not 10 years ago because with advanced cervical cancer, I probably wouldn't be here. But due to research, they're finding, we're living longer. So now they can see all of the sequelae, which means the side effects. And radiation is awesome because it helps save our life. But what it leaves behind is cruel. I'm just gonna say it like that.
It
So
is.
just dealing with all of that. And today I honestly, I didn't want to, I'm just, you know what? I am a very transparent person and I don't know how to sugarcoat very well. So I don't. And, once we have survived cancer or fighting it, because if you're still fighting it and going to treatment, you're still a survivor, right? You're still fighting
Yes.
it.
From the day you are diagnosed, you are a survivor.
Exactly. So I was like, you know what? I don't feel like doing this interview today. Because when I tell you, I went in and I was like, okay, it took three people, three nurses, and me, myself, and RN to help them find a vein because chemo destroyed my right arm. So we only have a couple of places, and they
Yeah.
found it, and I just broke down. And I wasn't sad, but it's so traumatic. And for me,
Yes.
I'm like, you should my doctors constantly remind me that this is a trauma. And I'm like, you're right. Stop thinking of it like a cold, they keep telling me. I was like, I know, but it should be, let's get on with it. And this was the worst MRI I've ever had. Not because anything that anyone else did, the pain, because I had to lay there for an hour and they're doing, I'm having some symptoms, so they want to double check you. That's the other thing. No matter what, you got to, oh, you have a symptom? Okay, let's go for another MRI. Let's have a CAT scan. You're like, take away some doctors. Don't let's add stuff, you know?
I, yes, I created a medical records tracker for myself, a medical binder that I took everywhere because I ended up with 15,000 doctors and practitioners, and I needed a list. I needed to know who knew what and who told what, and and with chemo brain, woohoo! No, we had to write it all down because you go to this doctor and they're like, okay, so what did so and so say? And I'm like, I have no idea what so and so said. Let's go to the videotape, right? Like, because I, yes, because there are so many doctors. It get that in You can get fatigued just from that, right? Like just thinking about how many doctors that you have to go see, and the side effects are no joke. And there's such a vast array of them. You never it's chemotherapy and radiation roulette. You're literally, it's a lottery. Here's the bullshit you get. um i, I don't have any front teeth. Nobody warned me that I was going to have sexual dysfunction. I couldn't have an orgasm for 5 years after my surgery, and I didn't think I was ever going to have one again. And nobody warned me. Like, I'm happy to be alive, but hello.
Oh my gosh. I just had this, I said this to my daughter. She always like busts my chops because when I would talk in the very beginning, like I'm so much better now. Only words I could say really was the F word. So I was dropping F bombs left and right, and I'm not a cursor. So everybody was like, what are you doing? But then my therapist, including my speech therapist, because I had to go to speech therapy too, and they were like, yeah, that's very normal because for some reason it releases tension and anxiety and using that word. So there
Yes.
are studies about it. And I was like, oh, so I said to her I was just last week, I said, you know what? I'm going to punch somebody in the throat if they say, but at least you're alive. What does that mean? It's the quality of life, not
Yes.
just being alive, right? I have to do certain things to myself every single morning, every day. And now I have to add Metamucil and Miralax to that twice a day. Like, come on.
Listen,
So, and the sexual dysfunction, I'm almost kind of happy that I'm single because I would have to do I have to give him a pass because there's certain things I can't do. And I actually have a trauma, but I don't remember it because I was knocked out, but my body does. So even if you put like for exams or a finger, anything, my vagina just starts going bazonkers. So I'm retraining it with pelvic floor therapy. But who told me about that? My team. They're like, yeah, you got to go for pelvic floor therapy. So I'm in that. It like they just really walked me through. And I went to the cervical cancer summit this weekend with survivor.org. Founder is Tamika Felder, and it was held here in New York City. And they had doctors from Penn, from MSK, from Columbia, and they had researchers there, and plus, conquerors there. And so we were able to share, oh, so that's normal. So it's not in our head, even though we know it, but to see and hear doctors say, yes, we're really starting to study the side effects now, and we have to help you with that. And the mental
I'm
health.
glad they've
So
started doing it. 17 years ago when I was diagnosed, there's none of that, right? And
right.
nobody, nobody warned me, hey, so we irradiated your whole abdomen. Uh, the warning signs that your body gives you that you have to go to the bathroom, they do not exist for you anymore. So I have poopsidents, whether I'm at home or in the grocery store or the shopping mall, it doesn't matter. My body's like, hey, we have to poop. I'll take 2 steps. Oh, we're done. Like, like and sometimes it's really good and I don't have a problem for months on end, and then I'll have like 3 accidents in a week and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So we can't control the situation. We can only control how we interact with it. So now we have the little go bag with the baby wipes and the change of clothes and you know, I,
Yeah.
sometimes I react really well and I get through it really well, and sometimes I burst into tears, and it's natural. Like, but I am super grateful to be here because my quality of life for the most part is awesome.
Good.
But there are some days that are just shit-tastic, and
It's
literally sometimes
you have good days, and like today was one of the
bad
roughest
day.
days. It just was not a good day. But you know what? I had to Zoom at 5 o'clock. I am doing this interview at 6, and I have to do a meeting at 7. And then I'm going to pop off my eyelashes, wash my face, because I have another doctor's appointment at 9 a.m. tomorrow. It's like it doesn't stop
Yeah.
some weeks, and then I start again next week. So I just take life one day at a time, one step at a time, unleashing my resilience because I don't tell women they're strong anymore. And I don't want anyone ever telling me I'm strong because I'm weak every day. Every day I get up, I have to think about what I have to do. Right. But I'm resilient. I bend, roll over, whatever, but I bounce back. I'm that weeble, like wobble, but you don't fall down. I continuously bounce back. And that's the message I want to get out to other women going through any type of whether it's cervical, the gynecological, breast, you're resilient,
Yeah.
and men going through, you're resilient because you show up every day. No
Yeah.
one signed up. Like when people talk about, I sit back now and I'm like, how in the world did I do that? I drove myself to radiation. My team was,
Same.
are you crazy? And I was like, no, I drive a stick shift. I love a little bit of speed. But anywho, I have a sports car and I'm part of a car club, right? So I have the WRX, it pops. I took off the mufflers. I have stickers on it. Like, I'm that type, even though I'm very girly girl. So for me, it took me 2 hours to get up in the morning, get dressed, just to get to my car in my own yard. It took me 2 hours to prepare. But the treatment was only 20 minutes, except for the days, Fridays when I had chemo, then it was like all day. But I drove myself because it showed I had some kind of control. I could control that. Now, granted, came home, walked my dog. I don't know how he survived, but he did. And then I passed out, but it kept me going. And I have to shout out the garage at New York Presbyterian every single day. I get emotional because these men would say to me, one in particular, that all of them started calling me, hello, my lady, how are you doing today? And it passed along all of them. So whether one was absent or not, that man, they recognized, they saw me because a lot of people stopped seeing me because, oh, you have cancer. So you're become invisible to them. And they saw me every day. Even
Wow.
now, when I go back, they see me. And I had to walk up by Columbia Presbyterian 160. It's hills. You don't think of that in New York City, but they're hills. And I would sit in the car when I got there for like 10, 15 minutes because I had to get my energy up,
Yep.
and I would walk 2 hills. And when my girlfriend and my daughter saw them, they were like, and my son, they were like, how are you walking this? And I would say, Sasha, Akil, Khalik, Aubrey, Ethan, Christian, Rain. So those are my 3 children and my 4 grandchildren. And every step I said their name until I would get to the top. And then I put my hand up like Rocky because I
Yeah.
was so glad I made it. And so I had to walk like a half a mile just to get inside to the
Oh
doctors.
my God.
And
Like
I did it.
I
Go
could barely
cover.
freaking drive, and you're walking up hills. I sh
But I had to.
nobody should be driving to their radiation appointments, especially once you start hitting week 3, because you hit a fucking wall and you have no energy and you're worse than a drunk driver, honestly, on the
You know
roads.
what? Because I have a stick shift, you keeps you alert. So I was able to move. I don't know what it was, but I did. I was able to go. Now I couldn't do anything after I got out the car because it
No.
took up all my energy. But I was able to do that because they kept saying, how are you managing? I'm was able to maneuver, parked my car, backed it in, and then I couldn't go anyplace else. I couldn't go to the store. So people would go to the store for me or instant, card it. That's what my son was in Miami until he came up for my brachytherapy. And that's the internal therapy where every other day for 2 weeks, 7 treatments, you're in the OR, so I couldn't drive myself. And, but we do what we need to do when we need to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not that we're so, people are like, oh my gosh, you did that. We don't know what we'll do under pressure.
No, we don't.
Right. And until that you hit that pressure, there are a lot of things you can do. But I do want to say that cancer conquerors are one of the most resilient people I know. Trauma, people that have been through traumas, they're some of the most resilient people I know.
Yes.
And this is a trauma and should be recognized as such and as a loss. And we should be allowed to grieve it. Don't say, oh, that's okay, just pray on it. Because I believe in, just pray on it, that you'll get better. I'm sorry, faith without works is dead. So I pray on it, yes. And I was fortunate to have such a wonderful team. And, my doctor said, we're praying for you every day and we're not leaving your side. And I was kind of like, who are you? Because I know that this is not the norm, although there are wonderful teams out there too. I'm just bringing mine. So don't be writing in like, I'm talking about my team.
Yes.
They're still wonderful. My doctor, Gockley, she wouldn't even call and let me get the results because now, they're in your portal. So you can for yourself. Oh my goodness. And then you Google what the words mean. And I would know what they mean. She would hit it so quickly and call me. And she goes, yeah, I didn't want you to see the report. And I was like, oh, right. Bubble brain. I forgot to even look for the report.
Oh no, I get the email and look immediately. Yeah.
I didn't. And I was just like, I'm going to let her explain it, even though, because, I know a lot to know too much, to not know enough at the same time. So I just need to release that power and just be patient. So I'm just like,
it's hard. It's really hard, especially when you're educated. And when the doctors and the practitioners have no idea how educated you are, it's a surprise for them when you ask the right questions and you read the reports and you know what's going on. And so when they do actually call you, you're like, okay, so when you told me this, the report says something different. Why did you say it that way? And they're like,
and you know what? And that's okay, because as a registered nurse, I know sometimes we don't present it the best. And people expect that the doctor, the nurse practitioner, you're seeing everybody's going to say something. They're going to see it just perfect, just the right way all the time. And we don't. But we do need to advocate for ourselves and say, hey, I need you to slow down. They didn't talk to me like an RN because that was done. I couldn't even remember, like, what does that mean again? What's the CBC? Just dummy it down for me, layman's language. And they were, and for the most part, that's what my immediate team did. But other doctors that I had to see that wasn't part of my team, and I would be like, so I had to fire one. I did, because she came flying in the room, breathing heavy. Okay, yeah. And I'm like, I sat there and she's like, talking a mile a minute. And so I just sat there wanting to punch her in the throat because, that's my thing. So I did in my head. And then I said to her, I said, you know what? Could you just take a moment and breathe? I just got the news this morning and had to go, claim my dad, identify my father's body at the morgue. So I really appreciate it if you could take a breath and not make me feel rushed. And that was the nicest way I could say it without, because I wanted to go in and curse her out. She turned colors, sat down, apologized. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I fired her. Yeah. And I never saw her again.
Yeah, you have to. All right. So I know that you have another appointment coming up real soon. So I want you to let the audience know how they can find your book.
Oh, thank you. So I had them here. I'm looking up because I'm in my office. This is the journal. I'm working on my actual book with my story, but this was my journal, Boss Up with Confidence, and it's a 30-day journal to help you build your confidence. And I developed this walk methodology. W, willing participant. Anything we do in life, it always starts here. It really does. You have to make a decision if you're going to be an active participant and a willing participant in your going through your cancer treatment or anything that you're going through. And then what action steps are you going to take? Then L is love yourself, but it's not getting your hair and nails done. That's maintenance. Loving yourself is really forgiving yourself. I had to forgive
Mm.
myself because I had not been to the gynecologist in a decade. Don't
Oh,
judge me, but due to
oh,
my trauma, I had every test in the world because HIV, everything, but I couldn't go for that
I,
exam.
I
And they
understand.
said to me, my team said, okay, so there are women that have been here in 20, 30 years. We just want you to come back for your treatment. That forgiving myself freed me up. I could really hear what they had to say. I knew they were also on my team because they didn't make me feel bad about it. And so that I could kick butt unapologetically and I could go through my treatment. So, and
Yes,
you know what? It's great to have journals. I have them where they're really thick and they have you doing all this stuff. When you're going through our treatments, you ain't got time for all that. But
nope.
your feelings, you can write them down. And so I wanted quick wins with some quotes in here, and you could just write your feelings down on it. And it's a win because you were able to write it down. And then you can go
Yes.
back and look at it later. So that I have, and you'll have the link for that. And then saving lives while fighting for mine. Who would have known that one day I would literally be fighting for mine? And I shared my journey going through divorce because I am, as well as being an international bestselling author and a speaker, I'm a divorce strategist. And what I do is I help women navigate through the divorce process with a strategic plan. And it's more than just getting an attorney and how much. You're healing through that process, effective communication, co-parenting skills. How do you feel putting yourself first, right? So that's really what I'm all about. And I have a boot camp coming up February 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And you will have the link for that as well. And if you're thinking
Okay.
about a divorce, if you're in the process or even after, it's okay to ask those questions. But prior to being an
Mhm.
RN, I was a
Mhm.
paralegal. So I know that when we go into a doctor, we give them our power because it's please, whatever, because you're so knowledgeable, right? So when you go
Yes,
to the attorney, you're emotional. It's please help me. They work for you. You have to go in
yes,
there with your questions, just like you do with going to the doctor. And when you do that, they take a minute and look like, oh, so that you get the answers that you need and
yes.
you don't have to be bitter and busted and disgusted going through that process. So I am so excited and happy for this opportunity. You can follow me on as Travis Michelle on my Instagram, Resilient Cervical Conqueror on Instagram. I'm Travis Michelle 1 on TikTok, and I'm on LinkedIn as well as starting my YouTube channel. So I need some subscribers, y'all. I ain't too shy. I'm an ass. But I thank you for this. I'm Travis Michelle. Too much for some, not enough for others. But guess what? I'm always just right for me.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on to Power Pantaloons today, Travis Michelle, and sharing your story. It was a pleasure to get to know you. And I'm going to say to my audience, you know what I'm going to tell you to do. Make your appointments. Go see the doctors you need to. Go to your annual exams. Follow the recommended guidelines because early detection saves lives. Until next time, Cancer Warriors. Bye.